Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Gaming here, back to the video. Today's episode, we are going to be doing a quick beginner's guide on how to play Holy Paladin in Season 3 of The War Within. We do have some of the updated talents here as well. And again, this is going to mainly focus on a beginner's guide. So if you're an advanced player or anything, it's probably not going to be the guide for you. This is mainly people just playing Holy Paladin for the first time or somebody who just needs a quick refresher. So we're not going to cover absolutely everything with Holy Paladin in terms of like all the cooldowns. We're going to kind of go over the core of Holy Paladin. And then we'll do a follow-up video later with, more complex cooldown management, just more complex topics, I guess. So that being said, let's go ahead and quickly discuss what Holy Power is. So Holy Power is pretty unique to Paladin. There's no other healers, I don't think, that work off sort of this combo point system. So the way it works is you will cast a few specific spells. You'll have spells like your Judgment, like your Crusader Strike, like your Holy Shock, and you'll press them, and they will generate Holy Power. And as you continue to use them, we'll use one here on this Prairie Dog. So now we're at 3. Now we can use more powerful spells like Eternal Flame, which cost Holy Power. So we can use them on that. You can see we just did a whole bunch of healing right there. So this is a generator and spender sort of spec, and your damage and both your healing is going to rely on how quickly and how efficiently you can generate and spend Holy Power. So let's quickly talk about probably one of our main generators at least, Holy Shock. So Holy Shock can be used offensively or defensively. Typically, if you're just starting out, I'd probably use it a little bit more defensively for healing rather than for its damage. But we can come to our talent tree, right, and we can type in Holy Shock, and you can see all the different talents that synergize with Holy Shock. And Holy Shock is actually at the very top of our tree as well, and you can see that we get 2 charges of it. So this is a spell that you kind of want to keep off cooldown as much as you possibly can. That way you're getting the most Holy Power that you can possibly get. And you're going to be using this to spot heal, right? So as health bars go down, you'll be dropping Holy Shocks on them just to kind of pat their health bars up a little bit. Now, probably our main spender spell in terms of Holy Power is going to be Eternal Flame. So let's go out here and kind of read what that is. So Eternal Flame, 3 Holy Power, heals an ally for X amount and does additional healing over 16 seconds. And this will actually heal us for 25% more if we cast this on ourselves. So one thing that's very important, right, is as you are generating Holy Power, you're going to make sure that you're not overcapping on Holy Power. Because when you overcap on Holy Power, you're wasting one of 2 things. You're either going to be wasting damage or you're going to be wasting healing. Right, so you want to use this pretty much as quickly as you possibly can. Obviously, right, you don't really want to heal somebody you don't want to just use this if somebody's at 95% health, right? So if there's no healing that's needed, you can rely on your Shield of the Righteous here, which costs 3 Holy Power as well. So we'll kind of bring that over here really quick. So you have 2 options: Eternal Flame if you need healing, Shield of the Righteous if you need damage and there's nobody to heal. Now we do have 2 things that do kind of synergize with Shield of the Righteous, right? We have Lightforge Blessing. So Shield of Righteous heals you and up to 2 nearby allies for 1% of max health. So not that great, to be honest, but it is some free passive healing, so we do take it. And then we also have Shining Righteousness, which is a little bit better. So every 4 Shields of the Righteous make your next Word of Glory or Live Dawn cost no Holy Power. So there is some healing that we do get out of casting Shield of the Righteous. It's not just all damage. So that's just something to kind of be aware of. And, you just want to weave them in whenever you see an opportunity. But outside of that, we're going to be spending most of our Holy Power right on this Eternal Flame here. Now, another talent that we do have here is our Light of Dawn. So unleashes a wave of holy energy, healing up to 5 injured allies within a frontal cone. It costs 3 Holy Power. A lot of times in Mythic Plus, we are not using this right now. The only reason we take it is because we have to, is because these nodes are locked behind it. So you do have to put a point into it. But 9.9 times out of 10, you're relying more on Eternal Flame rather than Light of Dawn. There's really not many great use cases for Light of Dawn in a Mythic Plus setting. So if you do run into that, for the most part, you can just kind of drag it off your bars. I personally have not had too many use cases where this is a good button to press. Okay, so moving on. So we have our main spender, Holy Shock. We have Eternal Flame. We have Shield of the Righteous as our spenders. Let's talk a little bit more about generators. So the main way that you're going to generate Holy Power is actually not through Holy Shock. Where are we even at? I'm not even by a dummy, am I? Let me fly over here. Okay, so the main way that you're actually going to be generating Holy Power is through Judgment and Crusader Strike. They're both very low cooldowns, and they both generate 1 Holy Power. So you can see here, we'll cast Judgment. We got a Holy Power. We'll cast Crusader Strike. We got a Holy Power. We can top that off with a Holy Shock, and now we have our 3 that's required for Shield of the Righteous or Eternal Flame. So you're kind of weaving in between these 3. And there's really never a bad time on when to use these. The only time I'd recommend not to use these is if, of course, somebody needs healing. Outside of that, these are very high priority spells. So now we kind of simplified this right into 5 spells. You have 3 generators and then 2 spenders, and you're wanting to use these basically on cooldown. That's not necessarily always true, but just for the purposes of this video, you're going to be using this pretty much always on cooldown from a beginner's perspective. Now, another thing I want to talk about is Flash of Light versus Holy Light. So we'll bring these up really quick in our spell book. So a lot of people ask, when should I be using Flash of Light versus when should I be using my Holy Light? So the problem with Flash of Light, the problem with Holy Light, they're pretty much the same spell. Holy Light is a bigger version of Flash of Light. Flash of Light is a lower cast time. Holy Light is a longer cast time. And they kind of compete with each other on which one you should be using. So the problem with Holy Light is how much mana it costs. You can see here it costs 175k mana for 834,000 healing. Now, if we go to Flash of Light, you see it costs 15,000 mana for 200,000 healing. You can see that this is pretty much twice as efficient to use Flash of Light versus Holy Light. The problem with using Flash of Light is a lot of the times that there's a very high HPS requirement, Flash of Light isn't enough. So the way that what I like to do is I like to use Holy Light when there's a lot of healing needed, and then I'm kind of using Flash of Lights to spot heal people. So let's go ahead and take this a step further. We can see down here we have a passive that actually works with Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Judgment. So Judgment now kind of worked into this. So let's just kind of read these out. Flash of Light healing is increased by 200% and becomes instant cast whenever we get an Infusion of Light proc. Holy Light, the healing is increased by 45% and the cast time is reduced by 30%. And a Judgment. Greater Judgment prevents an additional 150% damage dealt by the target and journeys 1 additional Holy Power. So that's one thing we didn't talk about earlier is Judgment. Judgment, we have a talent here called Greater Judgment. And your Judgment will actually put a small shield out to kind of shield people to prevent damage being taken. And it's actually pretty strong with Infusion of the Light. So let's quickly talk about how Infusion of Light even procs. Like, how do you even get an Infusion of Light proc? It's at the very top here. Your Holy Shocks have a 10% chance to empower your next spell cast. So when we do get an Infusion of Light proc, your priority is typically this. It's Holy Light as your #1 priority if you can afford the mana cost. #2 is Judgment, and then #3 is Flash of Light. So you could spin this proc in 3 different ways, and that's typically the order that you want to do it in. Neither is wrong, it just depends on the scenario. So let me play around here for a second and see if I can actually get a proc. Perfect, right off the bat. Okay, so we got 2 stacks of Infusion of Light. And again, we could spin this with a Flash of Light, a Holy Light, or a Judgment. So to show you the Judgment, we'll just... it just expired. Give me a second here. Let me get another proc. And I actually did explain Greater Judgment wrong earlier. It doesn't put a shield on you. It prevents the enemy from doing damage to you. Almost like a shield, but not really, I guess. So we're still working on this Infusion of Light proc. Give me another second here. Okay, so we got one here. So we can Judgment the target. You can see we got the Unworthy proc on them. And then we can use this on a Flash of Light, right? That made it instant cast. So again, just very important. I'm not going to go into like great detail on exactly, every single scenario to use this in, but that's sort of the general flow is Holy Light into Judgment, and then finally Flash of Light. Okay, next thing I want to talk about here is our blessings. So let's go here. Blessing of Summer. So the way these blessings work is it's going to rotate in between all the seasons. It's going to be summer, spring, winter, and autumn. And I don't believe that this is changing for Season 3 specifically. Now, of course, we get somebody over here. I don't think this is changing for Season 3 specifically. So the way that it worked in Season 2 is you would always use your blessings on yourself. So it doesn't matter if it's winter or summer. It doesn't matter. Always use it on yourself. Now, the one that's a little tricky is summer. So let's just kind of read summer out, right? You can kind of read what the other ones are on your own, but summer specifically. So bless an ally for 30 seconds, causing 12% of all healing to be converted into damage onto a nearby enemy and 12% all damage converted into healing. So it's on a 45-second cooldown, and you typically want to pair this with your wings, because when your wings are up, you're going to be able to get a ton of damage out through this, and you're also going to be able to get a ton of healing out of this. So all that damage, right, that you do with your wings gets converted into healing. So this is something that you want to actively be tracking, right? And you want to make sure that you're using this specifically when your wings, when those two cooldowns do align. Okay, I want to talk about a little bit about utility. I don't want to go too far into it. Mainly like your blessing of sacrifice. So the way blessing of sacrifice works is very, very core to playing Holy Paladin. It's just the utility. That's what separates a good Paladin from a great Paladin. Doesn't matter if you're prot, doesn't matter if you're ret, is how they use their utility. And blessing of sacrifice is very important to use. 2-minute cooldown blesses a party or raid member, reducing their damage taken by 30%, but we suffer 100% of the damage that's prevented. So you have to be careful with this, because if you do put this on a tank, for example, you're going to take a ton of damage because you're soaking the damage that your tank is taking. So typically, you're going to use this on a DPS in your party. Now, one thing that is nice about this is this cannot kill you. You can see at the bottom here, last 12 seconds or until transfer damage that would cause you to fall below 20% health. So you can't accidentally execute yourself, but you do kind of get yourself in a dangerous sort of area. And one thing you can actually do to save your tank is you can Blessing of Sacrifice them if you do need to, and then you can bubble yourself with Divine Shield, right? Divine Shield makes us immune to damage. So you can Blessing of Sacrifice your tank in that scenario because you're just immune to everything. But that's kind of like a fringe use case. Typically, you use it on a DPS who's squishy, taking a ton of damage from a dot effect, a curse effect, so sort of magic debuff. So you always want to be tracking like bleed effects on who has what effect on their unit frame. So I could show you, I use it with Cell. So this isn't the best example, but you can see I track like bleed effects, magic effects, disease effects over here on the very right, poison effects, and they will pop up on my UI over here. So typically that's where I'm using Blessing of Sacrifice, is when somebody gets one of these effects on them that would make them take a lot of damage, I'll use Blessing of Sacrifice to offset that. Mainly, it's bleeds and poison effects. If you do want to know how to set all this up, I do have a guide on my channel. I have another video where I covered all this. It is for last season, but it should still work for Season 3 as well. But that's typically how I track that sort of thing. Oh, and then one other thing I want to talk about. This is very core to how we're playing Holy Paladin right now. So we're running something called a Beacon of Virtue. And typically, this swaps back and forth between Beacon of Virtue and then just like your normal beacons. So yeah, right here, Beacon of Virtue, and then sometimes it's Beacon of Faith. Right now, we're going Beacon of Virtue. And the way this works is you'll press it, and you're going to apply a Beacon of Light on all your party members. And all allies are going to be healed for 25% of the healing that we do to somebody else. So if I heal myself for 1 million, then 250,000 is going to be dispersed onto each party member. Now, one thing that you do need to know about this is it replaces your Beacon of Light. So that is kind of the downside of playing this. It's really just a throughput thing. Which one? That's the reason we go back and forth between these two, is which one outputs the most healing. And right now, it's Beacon of Virtue. I personally like Beacon of Virtue better anyways. I think it's easier to play around, so I'm very glad that this has kind of shifted back into the meta. But just to kind of show you guys what this looks like, so I can press Beacon of Virtue. You can see I have a beacon on myself. This is now in a 15-second cooldown, and any healing that I do to other targets also gets healed to me. So let's go take a look at a dummy real quick. So I'm not sure how this will work. I don't think these dummies are in my party. I don't know if they'll get Beacon of Virtue on them or not. We'll see, but what I'm going to do is put Beacon of Virtue on myself and then heal a dummy, and you'll see that the healing gets dispersed to me. Okay, so it got put on them as well. So you can see all these dummies are getting healed now, right, as I press my healing spells. So, really neat spell. You typically want to pair this up with a sort of damage phase from a boss, like a pulsing sort of rot damage. So you do need to be tracking boss cooldowns. Excuse me, I guess boss abilities, rather. I do have a weak aura for that. Show you. So if you want to download this weak aura, it's called a Raid Ability Timeline. This will tell you when the next boss ability is about to come up. So say there's a big damage spell that's about to go out, you can pair your Beacon of Virtue with that, and you can kind of see the spell ticks down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When it hits 1, press Beacon of Virtue if that's a spell that you're worried about. Anyways, I'm kind of just rambling at this point, just things that pop into my head. And that's, for the most part, just kind of the core of playing Holy Paladin, especially in Season 3. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.